Cool.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is obviously a big couple of weeks with the new consoles out. It was big because we just had one of my other passions in the world, board games, just had the Essen Spiel, which is a gigantic conference where they announce a bunch of big new board games.
Where do they do that?
Germany?
I would never have
In
guessed.
Essen, Germany. And so I've been reading a ton of coverage of the Essen games, and I've been reading a ton of coverage of the new consoles, and I was struck because the tone difference between the two is really big. And it makes me really bummed out that the video game coverage, so much of it just feels so snarky and divisive, and it's hard for me to get behind my hobby and love my hobby as much as I do when it doesn't feel like the people who are writing some of this stuff feel the same way. It feels like an attack on the hobby rather than a celebration of the hobby. And I'm not saying that you can't be critical of stuff. I thought Andrew did a really great job this episode of being critical of some things, but talking about it from a place of really wanting the hobby to succeed. And I think that I started thinking a lot about what's the difference? What do some of my favorite voices in the board gaming community, Tom Vassell, the Shut Up and Sit Down guys, which are one of the best shows, Michael Fox from the Little Metal Dog Show, those guys talk about, and they're critical of stuff as well, but they talk about it in a way that is trying to convince people that their hobby is awesome. And I started thinking, what's the difference? Why is this happening? And you know what? I think I came to the idea that the problem is that video games are cool. And this is strange coming from somebody who, sold t-shirts on my previous show saying nerd is the new cool. That was our, catchphrase when we accepted our Webby Award. But I think nerd being the new cool might be the problem. And I think that people trying to be cool, because when you're cool, it sort of comes with this ironic detachment that I think hurts everything. It doesn't help anything. And I'm into this stuff, and I got into this stuff so long ago that it wasn't cool. And I got into this stuff because I love it. And I want other people to love it. And when all we're doing is sniping at each other and sniping at the things that we supposedly love, or we're taking sides in a war, what the fuck is that? I'm a soldier in a war? No, that's dumb.
For multi-billion-dollar companies.
For multi-billion-dollar companies, right. Okay.
All of them. Not
now,
yeah.
The guys in the board game space, it isn't cool, man. It isn't cool. They don't care about looking cool. They're silly, and they're genuine, and they're not afraid to look ridiculous. And I think that my takeaway from all of this is, A, I hope board games never become cool. And B, maybe if you're listening to this and that sounds like a little bit of truth, I know I'm probably going to get ripped to shreds for it, but maybe try not to be cool. Like, let's not be cool.
It's all right. They're listening to a video game podcast. How cool can they be?
Well, that's
the coolest.
I think that's the problem, is that this shit became cool. And so everybody has to maintain their cool factor. And I think being cool is one of the least interesting things you can be.
Cool. And it's not that it became cool. It became about being cool.
I think you're right.
And there's a subtle difference there, right? I mean, because cool is oftentimes confident and doesn't have to tell everyone that it's cool. It's the whole, like, I'm being cool.
And
I'm playing X. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I got to tell you about it.
And a few years ago, when we were saying nerd is the new cool on TRS, I really thought that was a good thing. And I've progressed to the point where I think it might be a bad thing. I think nerd being cool is a fail.
You don't want to be Jay Allard.
I think it's okay to be dorky and love things unabashedly and wear your heart on your sleeve and be into stuff and not be fucking so detached and ironic and and cynical. Fuck that. Love stuff and be genuine and like be a good person. So I'll get off my soapbox now. Sorry.
No, I thought it was you and I are aligned in this. We're both of the loving things.